The British dream has just become a waking nightmare for tens of thousands of people around the globe. A digital guillotine has fallen, and in a single sweeping action, the United Kingdom Home Office has severed the lifeline for countless aspiring workers. Imagine nearly 11,000 companies once trusted to bring skilled individuals to the UK have been blacklisted, their sponsorship licenses revoked almost overnight. This isn't a simple administrative update. It is a seismic shock to the entire immigration system, and it has triggered a devastating crisis of uncertainty, exploitation, and profound fear. Today, we are unmasking the 4 critical realities of this new, brutal landscape. We will expose the staggering scale of this sponsor company ban and delve into the dark reasons that forced the government's hand. We will pull back the curtain on a shadow economy of modern slavery, where workers were trapped in exploitative contracts that stole their wages and their dignity. We will reveal why Pakistani nationals have been disproportionately caught in this crossfire, their futures thrown into utter chaos. And finally, we will decode what this drastic measure means for the future of all sponsored work, especially the once popular care worker visa, and ask whether any safe, reliable path to the UK still exists. Before we dive into this critical analysis, understand that this information could be the difference between a successful future and the devastating financial and personal loss. If you find this information valuable, give this video a thumbs up to signal its importance. This isn't just news, it's a critical warning. Share it immediately with anyone you know who is considering working in the UK or who is already here on a sponsored visa. And if you are new to this channel, traveller, and you want to stay ahead of these sudden, life-altering changes, subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. The ground is shifting beneath our feet, and you need to know exactly where the cracks are appearing. Let's begin with the sheer, breathtaking scale of this crackdown. The number itself is almost difficult to comprehend: 10,948. This is not a handful of rogue operators being weeded out. This is a vast, sprawling network of companies that have had their right to sponsor foreign workers completely and utterly erased. These weren't just small, unknown firms operating in the shadows. The list includes companies with decades of history, businesses that were integral to the supply of manpower across critical sectors of the British economy. We are talking about the information technology consultants who maintain essential digital infrastructure, the construction firms building homes and hospitals, and most significantly, the healthcare providers who staff the care homes looking after Britain's most vulnerable citizens. For years, these companies were the gatekeepers, the essential bridge between global talent and UK opportunities. Now, that bridge has been dynamited. The Home Office did not take this drastic action lightly. Authorities acted after a mountain of evidence surfaced, pointing to systemic, widespread exploitation. It was a cancer that had metastasized within the sponsorship system, and the government chose radical surgery as the cure. The Home Office can revoke licenses for numerous serious breaches, including providing false information, employing illegal workers, or failing to comply with sponsorship duties. But for the thousands of applicants who had pending visas with these companies, and for the workers already here, this cure feels very much like a poison. This brings us to the rotten core of the issue: the rampant predatory exploitation of foreign workers. This wasn't just about low pay, it was a carefully constructed and cruel trap. The model was a cynical bet on desperation. Workers, desperate for a chance to build a better life, would often pay exorbitant fees, sometimes tens of thousands of pounds, to agents in their home countries. Many sold property or took on massive family debt to secure what they believed was a legitimate sponsored job. They arrived in the United Kingdom, only to discover a horrifying reality. Under the terms of these exploitative agreements, many migrants were forced to surrender a significant percentage of their salaries back to their employer or an intermediary, often for years on end. Their official payslip might show a legal wage, but in reality, after the kickback was paid, their actual take-home pay was often far below the legal minimum wage, sometimes barely enough to survive. This created a form of modern-day indentured servitude, trapping workers in appalling conditions. They couldn't leave because their visa was tied to the very employer who was exploiting them. They couldn't complain for fear of being reported to the Home Office and deported, losing their entire life-changing investment. This toxic practice didn't just harm the migrant workers, it poisoned the entire UK labour market, creating a shadow economy that undercut wage standards for local British workers and rewarded the most unscrupulous employers. Now, we must address the specific and devastating struggles faced by Pakistani nationals. While this crisis has affected people from all over the world, community reports and emerging evidence suggest that Pakistani nationals have been among the hardest hit. Many had their sponsored visas approved and were preparing to travel only to find their sponsored company had been banned moments before they were due to fly. Others were already in the UK, working and building a life, when they were abruptly told their employer was no longer licensed, rendering their visa invalid for future extensions. The uncertainty is excruciating. Imagine being told that the job you sold your family land for no longer exists, and the company that sponsored you is now blacklisted. The Home Office has offered some clarification, stating that a worker's visa is typically limited to 60 days after a sponsor loses its license, during which they must find a new sponsor or leave the UK. This offers little comfort. The 60-day window is a thin thread for a family's future to hang on. For those already here, the advice has been cold and clinical. Find a new sponsor, upskill, or switch to another visa category. This completely ignores the immense cost, the complex legal hurdles, and the emotional turmoil of having their entire life plan obliterated overnight. They are stranded, caught between a past they cannot return to and a future that has been locked before their very eyes. So, what does the future hold for sponsored work visas, and in particular the care worker route? The message from the government is crystal clear: the era of easy access is over. The care worker visa, once seen as a popular and accessible pathway into the UK, has faced severe new restrictions. Citing an unsustainable level of migration and widespread misuse of the route, the government has acted. As of March 11, 2024, newly sponsored care workers are no longer able to bring dependents like partners or children with them. This was a move explicitly designed to reduce net migration figures. Moving forward, the entire system is being re-engineered around one guiding principle: stricter compliance. Any remaining sponsor firms and any new ones will be subjected to a level of scrutiny never seen before, with the Home Office increasing data-led investigations and unannounced audits. This means the process will be slower, more expensive, and carry a significantly higher risk of refusal. The door to the UK has not been completely closed, but it has been narrowed to a tiny gap, and a heavily armed guard is now standing watch. In conclusion, we are witnessing a fundamental and painful reshaping of the United Kingdom's immigration landscape. The mass cancellation of nearly 11,000 sponsor licenses is a brutal but arguably necessary reaction to a system that allowed gross exploitation to flourish. However, the fallout has created a genuine human crisis for thousands of innocent workers, particularly from nations like Pakistan, who played by the rules and are now paying a heavy price for the sins of corrupt employers. For anyone seeking a future in Britain, the path is now fraught with peril. You must explore alternative, more specialised routes, invest in high-demand skills that meet the UK's new, stricter criteria, and above all, remain relentlessly vigilant against fraudulent agents who will undoubtedly try to exploit this confusion. The old promises are broken. A new, much harder reality has begun. What do you think about this drastic update? Is this a fair price to pay to clean up a corrupt system? Or has it created an even bigger injustice for honest, hard-working people? Comment below and share your thoughts. Thank you for watching.